The observation deck of Training Station Helios 9 offered a panoramic view of the asteroid field beyond, but Cadet Sarah Chen wasn't looking at the stars. She sat cross-legged on the cold metal floor, a steaming mug of coffee cradled in her hands, while chaos erupted around her. The Kravix hunting party had materialized without warning, 6 of them, each standing nearly 8 feet tall, their chitinous armor gleaming under the station's harsh lights. They were apex predators from the Outer Rim, known throughout the galaxy for their brutal efficiency and their taste for exotic prey. Humans, being the newest addition to the Galactic Coalition, had quickly become their favorite target. "Little mammal," hissed their leader, Cathresh, his mandibles clicking with anticipation. "You are alone. Your kind makes such interesting sounds when we begin the harvest." Sarah took a slow sip of her coffee, savoring the bitter warmth. "You picked the wrong human," she said quietly. Cathresh laughed, a sound like grinding metal. The other Kravix spread out, forming a predatory circle. They'd done this 1,000 times before. Isolated prey, psychological intimidation, then the kill. It was always the same. "Where are your weapons, Cadet?" Cathresh taunted. "Where is your precious human technology?" Sarah set her mug down carefully on the floor beside her, making sure it wouldn't tip. "Don't need any," she replied, and then she whistled, a sharp, piercing note that echoed through the chamber. The temperature dropped. From the shadows behind a maintenance panel, something moved. It started as a ripple in the darkness, then became something more substantial. The Kravix hunters tensed, their thermal sensors picking up a massive heat signature that hadn't been there moments before. Rex emerged into the light. To call him a dog would be like calling a supernova a candle. He stood 6 feet at the shoulder, his form shifting between solid matter and something else, something that existed partially in dimensions the Kravix couldn't fully perceive. His fur was midnight black, but it moved like liquid shadow, and his eyes burned with an intelligence that was ancient and utterly alien. Teeth like daggers gleamed in a mouth that seemed too large, too wrong for any natural creature. "Impossible," Cathresh breathed. "What is that thing?" "That," Sarah said, picking up her coffee again, "is my dog." The youngest Kravix hunter, his name scent still fresh from his recent maturity, made the fatal mistake of attacking first. He lunged at Sarah with his plasma blade extended, certain that speed would carry the day. Rex moved. One moment he was beside Sarah. The next, he was simply there, between her and the threat. The young Kravix's blade passed through empty air as Rex's jaws closed around his thorax. There was a sickening crunch, and the hunter's scream cut off abruptly. Rex tossed the body aside with a casual flick of his massive head. The remaining 5 Kravix opened fire simultaneously, their plasma weapons painting the room in strobing blue light. Sarah didn't even flinch. She'd seen this before. Rex phased. The plasma bolts passed through him as if he were made of smoke, splattering harmlessly against the far wall. Then he solidified again, right in the middle of their formation. His roar shook the deck plating, a sound that resonated on frequencies that made the Kravix's internal organs vibrate painfully. 2 hunters tried to retreat. Rex was faster, his paws, each the size of a dinner plate and tipped with claws that could rend starship hull plating, caught the first one across the back. The Kravix's armor, designed to withstand small arms fire, crumpled like foil. The second hunter made it 3 steps before Rex's. Like a weaponized appendage studded with bone-like protrusions, swept his legs out from under. Sarah sipped her coffee and watched with detached interest as Rex went to work. This was, after all, what he'd been bred for. Back on Earth, in the secret labs beneath Colorado, human genetic engineers had looked at man's best friend and asked a simple question: what if we made them better? The answer was classified. The answer was terrifying. The answer was currently demonstrating why humans had been welcomed into the Galactic Coalition with a mixture of awe and barely concealed fear. Cathresh, to his credit, didn't run. He charged instead, his ceremonial blade, forged from the core of a dying star, raised high. It was a weapon that had ended the lives of hundreds of beings across dozens of worlds. Rex caught it in his teeth. The blade shattered. Cathresh had time for one final thought before Rex's jaws closed around him. These humans are not prey. These humans are something else entirely. The last 2 Kravix dropped their weapons and activated their emergency transport beacons, preferring the shame of cowardice to certain death. Rex let them go. He'd been trained to recognize surrender. As the bodies dissolved under the station's automated cleanup protocols, Rex padded back to Sarah's side. He sat down with a heavy thump, and suddenly he looked less like an interdimensional horror and more like a very large, very pleased dog. His tail wagged, shaking the deck. "Good boy," Sarah said, scratching behind his ears. He leaned into the touch, and for a moment, he was just a pet enjoying his owner's affection. The observation deck doors hissed open, and Commander Thex, a four-armed Saldorian and the station's security chief, rushed in with a tactical team. They stopped short at the scene. A human cadet sitting peacefully with her coffee, a massive creature lounging beside her, and the faint outline of where several bodies had been moments before. "Cadet Chen," Thex said carefully, his weapons lowered. "Report." Sarah stood, brushing dust from her uniform. Rex stood too, matching her movement. "Kravik's hunting party, sir. 6 hostiles. They engaged first. Rex defended me. 2 escaped via transport beacon." Thex looked at Rex, who stared back with those burning eyes. The commander had been in the coalition military for 30 standard years. He'd fought in the Hive Wars. He'd seen things that would drive lesser species mad. But this thing that humans called a dog still made his blood run cold. "I see," he said finally. "I'll need to file an incident report." "Of course, sir." Sarah finished her coffee in one long gulp. "Do you need anything else from me?" Thex looked at the scorch marks on the walls, the cracked deck plating where Rex had landed his killing blows, and the young human cadet who stood there as if nothing unusual had happened. "No," he said quietly. "Just keep that thing on a leash, would you?" Sarah smiled and scratched Rex behind the ears again. "He is on a leash, sir." "I'm holding it." As they walked out together, girl and creature, human and her impossible companion, Thex watched them go and made a mental note to update the station's security protocols. The notation would be simple: do not engage human cadets, especially the ones with coffee, and definitely not the ones with dogs.